I don't think there's anything harder than finding a liberal boyfriend. Where is he? Where is he? Who of my people, are you guys having liberal boyfriends? Who has a liberal boyfriend? Raise your hand. Where'd you find him? It's such a problem for me. It really is. It really is a problem. And if you don't understand why it's a problem, then you just don't get it. Not even a liberal, like maybe like a Democrat, like a registered Democrat. I just want to find a dude that voted for Kamala Harris. I'm really struggling. I know 70 million people voted for her, so there's got to be one that is attractive and my type and in the general vicinity of me.
Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but women voters? Welcome to planet Mars. I'll be over in my spaceship.
You know, I hate to break it to you, sister, but those dudes, they're in your friend zone, and there isn't a single looker in that particular bunch. They will shower you with endless praise, blindly agree with you when it comes to practically anything. They'll cook for you, clean for you, they'll never stand up for themselves, and they'll even pay you for the privilege. But the prospect of always being right and getting unlimited free rent isn't enough for you to even consider those guys for anything that doesn't involve moving a couch. But to be honest, I don't think those guys could even move a couch anyway, so you're pretty much doomed no matter what you do.
Good luck.
Riddle me this. Why after a first date, if you make out, you end up in a 3-month-long situationship? If you just kiss once, you're never going to see that person again. If you f*** each other, that means you don't actually like each other. And if you don't touch at all, that means you found your husband.
Emotional damage.
Oh, that one's easy. You see, you're desperate, so you'll suck face with a guy and you'll endlessly want to pork him in hoping that he chooses you. If you kiss once, you'll resent him for an obscure reason and you'll ghost him. And when you're doing the bedroom bounce with Chad, you really don't hate him as much as you hate every single thing about yourself. And if you meet a guy and don't pork, you found a simp that you'll divorce and strip him of his money. And all of this comes from a complete lack of self-esteem and an overwhelming desire to refuse accountability for practically anything. That was an easy riddle, woman. Try harder next time.
You have failed conclusively. It's over. And there is nothing that you can do here in this room that can turn that around.
I met this guy in his late 40s, and he was trying to tell me that it's okay for him to date a woman in her early 20s. And I said, I don't think that's correct. And he said, no, it actually is correct. And in fact, it's better because women in their early 20s have a lot of hope. And women in their late 30s, mid 40s, his age, he said they get very cynical, and they're, more realistic. And I said, I think there's a word for that. And he said, what is it? And I said, maturity. I don't think he's gonna wanna hang out with me again.
A smelly fish.
And it's not a card.
Yeah, I have my sincerest doubts that you went on a date with that guy, sweetheart. The amount of bags underneath your eyes would be enough to fill at least 2 passenger jets as well as one of those planes that dudes use to smuggle baking powder out of Caracas. And even if that date did happen, there's no way he actually said that to you because he wouldn't be bothering dating a less than mid woman such as yourself unless it was on a dare. And even if he did say that to you, there is no chance in HE double hockey sticks did you even come up with a single line like that. Now don't get me wrong, you're a modern woman, so you spell mature S-T-U-P-I-D. And if you can't even spin a convincing yarn, then your spelling capabilities are far below par, sister.
TARP?
Yeah.
T-A-R-P?
Great. Where were you 5 minutes ago?
My therapist told me in order to find a compatible partner, I have to write down all the qualities I'm looking for and then possess those qualities myself. I was like, okay, well, where the hell am I gonna get a lot of money? Anyway, she wants to bump her sessions up to twice a week.
My Adam's apple is in school all the time. There's nothing recess about it.
Well, you may not be packing a dong, but you sure are acting like a dick. And with a voice as deep as yours, it's hard to think that you don't have one of those. And money? Well, yeah, there we can both agree. The amount of money that you have correlates exactly with the size of said dong. And your therapist just cut off that hot water supply for that particular shower of yours because well-endowed dudes with lots of money take one look at you and think putting their junk into a light socket would be much more productive by comparison.
A lot of men out there talk a big game that they want to date a baddie until they finally bag one and completely lose the fucking plot. They quickly realize that they're beyond ill-equipped to deal with the amount of attention that she gets. And instead of going to therapy, they just project all their insecurities onto her to try to make her feel small so their fragile little ego can feel important again. Who said that?
Who are you talking at?
All right, woman, I will cut you a semi-post-dated check for 93 intergalactic space cents if you can give me any form of evidence of a self-respecting man openly admitting to wanting to lock in a baddie. Mainly because that guy needs to be sent to a cigar shop and a sport jacket warehouse to regain his dignity post-haste. And there isn't any self-respecting dude out there who has ever said anything like that. And that's because the baddies always refer to a group of people that we don't like the Mounties tag team, or those ninjas who kidnapped Ronald Reagan, or the guy who invented Alestra. They're not the type of people we want to associate with, sister, and the very reason is because they require way too much attention, pass way too much judgment, and spend too much money on therapy for too little of an actual result. And that is why men have never openly admitted that they want baddies, nor would they ever. Who said that?
That's funny because it's so true.
Ew.
Woman, you just tried to ruin milk for the universe, so as a courtesy, I sent this travesty over to Cody, and his army of genetically enhanced Amish men are headed to your way in the name of milk justice as we speak. And I didn't want to do it, but you left me no choice, lady. And while I'm reveling in the justice at the hands of my sworn enemy, let's celebrate by answering a question from the fine member of the bounty board. David Small asks, the feminists took over Xanda 2. The men went on strike and left. First day was parties, and then the sewage backed up. No internet, no TikToks, no power, water, or garbage collection. No trucks, so the stores were empty. Economy collapsed, women are desperate, and they're searching for bears. The men are doing fine. They say it's peaceful and quiet on their new planet. Has this happened anywhere else in Sector Sigma? Oh man, the Xanda 2 fiasco. That was a quaint little moment in Sector Sigma history. And I remember it like it was yesterday. The entire planet ended up getting engulfed by an endless series of acid lightning storms. Nobody knows how the women folk were able to figure out how to do that, but they did, and now the entire planet is uninhabitable. But it wasn't all bad. Now the dudes and the bears started up their own mercenary company with a 95% success rate. Now, the real story takes place on Toporulon 8, aka the biggest steakhouse in Sector Sigma. It's the kind of place where you can grill a steak pretty much anywhere. And since the fire had a mysteriously hefty portion of salt, you didn't even need to season your meat before cooking. Plus, it had one of the best bowling alleys in the sector. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows on Toporulon. There are plenty of problems. You got drunken intergalactic space frat boys running amok on spring break, mutated fire ants that make your dining experience incredibly distracting, and the fire pirates. You can't forget about them. Have you ever seen the movie Ice Pirates? Yeah, it's kind of like that except with fire and no Bruce Valanche. Luckily, the fire monks were able to broker a peace treaty with the pirates by conscripting the help of Ron Perlman. He's pretty much a legend out in these parts, and nobody wanted to wrong him, because if there's one thing you don't do out here, it's piss off the Perlman. But there's only one problem that even Ron Perlman couldn't fix, and that was the scourge of vegan feminists that mysteriously invaded the planet about a decade ago. They tried to declare that the entire planet was immoral and demanded a regime change. Now, in the Fire Monks' defense, they did try to put up a good fight, but they were powerless to their collective screeching tactics. I mean, when you're dealing with 2,000 decibels of pure unbridled feminist rage, it's just too much. So for the sake of their own sanity, they just looked at the blue-haired freaks and told them that if they wanted the planet, it was theirs for the taking. I mean, yeah, they were pretty much abandoning their birthright at that point, but when you're dealing with blue-haired overweight freaks in nature, some things just aren't worth fighting for. And day one was pure bedlam. The feminists got drunk and humped with the frat boys on the final night before they went back to sleeping through their history of frozen food lectures at Space College. And so once the partying was over, they outlawed steak and made the planetary anthem Taylor Swift's Blank Space, and immediately became the most annoying planet in the universe. But there was one problem. These broads didn't know anything about the nuances of controlling the fire on this entire planet. And in their smug arrogance, they were somehow able to infest the planet immediately with a horde of sentient Magoratari demon octopi. They weren't native to the planet, and they weren't anywhere near the system. But one day you're grilling steaks, and the next day every single grill spot has been taken over by these jerks. It was almost impressive. Now, several attempts have been considered to find out how they did it, but when you got a whole bunch of blue-haired feminists stuck on a planet with nothing but octopi for company, sometimes ignorance is just truly bliss. So now the steakhouse planet is kaput, and just to add insult to injury, Ron Perlman is pissed off at all of us. And that just sucks. But it wasn't all bad. The fire monks at least turned out all right. They immediately started up the Unified Church of Pyromaniacs and Steak, which when you're talking about the tax write-offs, it's actually kind of a solid religion. You get free steak, some peaceful silence, and the only entry requirement is that you had to bring your own Zippo and not be afraid to commit acts of mild arson. And that's a pretty sweet deal if you ask me. Hope that clears it up for you, David. Thank you so much for the question. And it's always a pleasure to make these segments for you guys, and I can't thank you enough for the support. And it's always extended to every single member of the Bounty Board over on Patreon, whose support and generosity are so awesome that when the Intergalactic Space Guy Goblin Card, all hail, grills up a steak, he's grilling it for you. All hail! And if you're interested in learning more about the Lockverse, check out the Bounty Board over on Patreon, where there's a specific tier just for that. Just sign up, let me know your question, and I'll answer it at the drop of a hat. The link's in the pinned comment down below if you want to check it out.
So I don't know if anybody else is struggling with this, but on every date that I've been on recently, I find out that these guys are extreme conservative MAGA guys. And that might not be posted on their apps or their prompts, or you might not know that going in, and then I find out, and it's a big problem for me.
That's crazy!
Because I've been having these guys tell me that they have a lack or inability to have empathy for masses that don't directly affect them. I had a guy tell me last night that he doesn't care about people personally that are not in his life, or that, and it doesn't affect him. Like, if it doesn't affect him, then he doesn't care about it.
Well, what did the police say?
I don't see how you can personally say that you care about the masses of the world when you're on a dating app. That means that you're not only self-absorbed, short-sighted, and single to a pathetic degree, but you're also incredibly judgmental towards the proud members of the illustrious Bottom 95% Club. You think that those men are evil, violent, and will apparently challenge a bear to a full-on axe handle fight where the winner gets to do horrible things to the woman they just met in the woods. If you were truly an empathetic human being, you'd actually want to hear what these men have to say, but you don't want that. It's just easier for you to negatively judge an entire group of people for virtually no reason outside of the fact that you disagree with them politically. But the biggest difference between the dudes you hate and the masses you pretend to care about is at least the dudes you hate have a legal right to be in this country.
And that really bothered me, because I've had a lot of guys these days like tell me that they don't feel empathy for people of different socioeconomic statuses or going through different problems. And I think this was really heavily related to the ICE raids and lack of empathy for people losing their families and losing their lives over these things. So as a progressive person, but also as a person who really tries to care about other people in her community, I find it a huge struggle these days to date amongst the rise of Trumpism and conservatism in young men.
That's not my problem. It's yours.
Well, I hate to break it to you, sister, but people tend to only care about themselves and those that they hold dear. It's called the human condition for a reason. But you think that because you pretend to feel really, really bad about criminals getting apprehended, that somehow makes you morally superior to the world around you. Progressivism is a movement that can only be afforded by people who have never suffered a day in their lives and pretend to give a crap about other people, while also using it as an excuse to crap all over anybody that you deem beneath you, which just so happens to be everybody that you don't know. Don't blame politics for the fact that you're completely worthless when it comes to dating, sweetheart. Blame your insufferable personality and your inability to be a nice person. But allow me to be the bigger man and leave you with this completely random clip I found on the internet that's completely unrelated to your bitching.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
Let me just say that if he wanted to, he would. If he wanted to, he would. And that statement is so accurate, you guys, because literally what one man won't do, another man will. And if the man that you want to do those things is not willing to do them, then that's not the man for you. So stop trying to make him the man, because he never will be. A man will never be that man if he does not want to be. And his actions will clearly tell you if he wants to be or not. You shouldn't have to ask to be bought in flowers. You shouldn't have to ask to be taken out on dates. You shouldn't have to ask for a back massage. Like, those things should just be offered. They should come with ease. Like, they should come naturally to the man that wants to do those things for you. And I myself have learned from my last relationship, which I've only been in one, but I have learned that sometimes you're in a relationship to learn things and to grow and to help each other momentarily, I guess. But that doesn't mean that they're your forever person.
That's a huge bitch! Well, lady, not only have you been in only one relationship, which is a term I use extremely lightly, that's also going to be your only one. And that's because you're not only demanding an absurd amount of trinkets from a guy, you feel the need to refer to him as your forever person, as if he's some sort of a pet whose only purpose is to somehow magically serve you and your whims. You view men as service providers. They are only there to make your life easier. And one look at you and we can all tell there's nothing that you can provide that a man can't provide himself. And he reserves that special treatment for a woman who's actually worth a damn. And I hate to break it to you, sister, but you aren't even worth your own weight in dams. Men are not money dispensing gigolo butler masseuse cops. They have feelings that need to be taken into consideration. But it's hard for you to do that when you're busy getting high off the smell of your Cheeto dust scented body odor.
Because, yeah, it might hurt. It might hurt when you break up. Obviously, it's going to. Like, you spent a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years with that person. But people know within a year if they want to marry someone. That is ample time to know if you want to spend the rest of your life with someone. And if they're unsure, if they don't know yet, if they need more time, that is not your person. I don't know what to tell you. Like I said, if he wanted to, he would. So, that's it. That's all. Stop settling. There's a man out there, you might have to wait for him. Let him come to you. Stop searching. Because it's when you search and you try to find and you put all your effort into it that you're just gonna find a bum, or you're not gonna find it at all. And just let him come to you. Princess treatment only.
Great plan.
Thank you.
He likes your plan, Chief.
Where exactly are you getting this metric, lady? How is a man supposed to know if he wants to marry you within a year? He's got to get to know you. He's got to make sure that you're emotionally stable and that you're not going to use his insecurities against him whenever you're mildly annoyed at something. And he's also got to be comfortable with the idea of you being in his life until he straight up dies. That takes more than a year nowadays, except in your case. A man can take one look at you and know within a second that the idea of marrying you seems worse than getting hit with a dozen dull machetes. But that doesn't mean he won't keep you around if the Boondang is sufficient enough. And that's about it. No man is going to be willing to wife you up when you consider how annoying and pointlessly entitled you are. He doesn't want to marry you, and he won't. And judging from your annoying ass attitude, you should consider yourself lucky if he even wants to be seen with you in public. But in that case, sister, I wouldn't be holding my breath. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button, ring the notification bell, leave a couple of comments, and be sure to share this video so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you once again for checking out the new video, gentlemen and gents, and until next time, peace out, homies.